All right, welcome. We are about to dive into one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard. It's a story about family myths. You know, the kind of bedtime stories that get passed down for generations, except this time, they turned out to be completely, verifiably true. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if those tall tales your grandparents told you, the ones you kinda have believed, what if they weren't just stories, but a real documented piece of your family's past, just waiting to be rediscovered? Well, for the Halfon family, the only real clue they had was this one mysterious, tattered piece of paper. For 150 years, it was passed down, written in a language nobody in the family could read, with just one simple instruction: this is important. Keep it safe. So, this all starts with stories. For generations, the Halfon family would tell these wild tales about their ancestors back in 18th century Tripoli. Stories filled with pashas, royalty, and all sorts of adventure. And honestly, to the younger generations, it all sounded a bit like a fairy tale. And, when you hear the legends, you can see why they thought that. A special name given by the ruler himself, a baby born in the royal garden who gets the pasha's personal protection. Yeah, it's pretty easy to see why the family kind of joked about being descended from royalty. It just sounded way too good to be true. Okay, so let's get into the most colorful of these stories. This is the one that supposedly explains how a mysterious name, Dawla, got attached to their family name, Halfon. So the story goes, she was this really bold woman who would often walk in the pasha's private garden, which was something you just didn't do. And one day, while she's pregnant, she goes into labor right there in the garden. The pasha himself hears her, comes out, and instead of being angry, he invites her into his palace and grants both her and her brand new baby boy his personal protection. Now, this was a huge deal. The pasha publicly attached the name Dawla to the family name. It comes from the Arabic word Dawla, and it wasn't just some nickname. It was a public declaration. It basically meant of the state or under the ruler's protection. It was a massive status symbol in that time and place. So that little boy, born in the garden, his name was Yehuda Halfon, and it turns out he absolutely inherited his mother's fiery, adventurous spirit, which led him on a pretty unbelievable journey of his own. Oh man, this kid was a real character. He gets into a dispute with his rabbi over some confiscated penknives, a story that ends with him having to flee town. He makes his way to Egypt, becomes a successful trader, and then, get this, he gets shipwrecked and survives for days in the open sea by floating in a giant cooking pot until he gets rescued. It's just wild. Eventually, after all that, he finally finds his way back home. So years go by, generations come and go, and all that's really left of these incredible stories is that one piece of paper. For 150 years, the family knew it was from the American consulate and that it was important. But that was it. Nobody could actually read it. It was just this silent witness to a past they had all but forgotten. And that was the big question, right? This piece of paper that was just a family curiosity, the one that Aharon's own descendant, Leon, would eventually use to immigrate to the United States in 1965. What secret had it been holding on to all that time? And here it is. This is what it said. The document, dated February 14, 1876, states that for the last 80 years, 3 generations of the Halfon family, Aharon, his son Meir, and his grandson Nissim, had been under the official protection of the United States flag. In that moment, all those family legends came crashing right into world history. Okay, let's just break this down for a second. This paper wasn't just a letter. It was an official certification of an 80-year dynasty of service. They were the official brokers for the U.S. consulate, which gave them this rare and powerful status of American protege. And the date? It was signed on the 100th birthday of the United States itself. This wasn't a fairy tale. This was American diplomatic history. But that just raises this huge question, right? Why on earth was a local family in Tripoli so vital to the brand new United States? Well, the answer takes us into this dangerous world of pirates, powerful pashas, and a new nation just trying to find its footing on the world stage. So to really get why they were so important, you have to understand the context. In its early years, the U.S. didn't have a real navy. It couldn't protect its merchant ships from the Barbary pirates of North Africa. So, in 1796, they opened a consulate in Tripoli to try and negotiate. This whole situation led directly to America's first ever overseas war, the First Barbary War. They desperately needed trusted local allies just to survive.
And this is exactly where a broker, a guy like Yehuda Halfon, became absolutely essential. An American diplomat couldn't speak the languages, they couldn't possibly navigate the tricky politics of the Pasha's court, and they certainly couldn't negotiate directly with pirates. But the Halfon family? They could do all of it. They were the eyes, the ears, and the voice of the United States in a very hostile land, mediating for the release of captured American sailors and providing critical intelligence.
But, of course, that world didn't last forever. After 80 years of service, right at the center of international diplomacy, massive geopolitical shifts forced the family to pivot, to change in a really remarkable way. So when Italy occupied Libya in 1911, that old world of pashas and brokers just vanished. The U.S. was now dealing directly with a European power. So what did the family do? They adapted. They pivoted from the world of diplomacy to the world of artistry, becoming master carpenters famous for their beautiful work. The skills of careful negotiation were replaced by the skills of careful craftsmanship. And then, in the most amazing twist of all, that very same piece of paper from 1876, the document that certified their family's 80 years of service to America, became their ticket back. In 1965, Aharon's descendant, Dawla Halfon, presented that document to the U.S. Embassy and was able to immigrate, closing a circle that had been open for almost 200 years. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? That dusty box of old papers in the attic, that strange little object your grandparents insisted on saving. What stories are they holding? What forgotten connection to the great sweep of history might be hiding right there, in your own family's past?